So the Trump-Stein shutdown continues and pedophiles are still being protected. And it's pretty crazy to me considering that the party that promised to expose the deep state and expose all the corruption are now the party that is actively covering it up and keeping it hidden. No matter how you slice it when it comes to these whole Epstein files, whether you think Trump is actually guilty of something or he's not, let's just go ahead and say, just for the sake of the argument, that he is in no way guilty of any wrongdoing, which I highly doubt, but let's just go ahead and give him the benefit of the doubt, and let's say that he himself is innocent. He is still, at the moment, protecting the ones that are guilty. And so I stumbled across a video on the MeidasTouch network. It's called Survivor Steps Forward to Expose All as Trump Hides Files. So I highly recommend that you go watch this video in its entirety. It's worth every second of it. It was a great interview that Ben Meiselas did with a survivor, Lisa Phillips. She was at the Capitol and she spoke that day, and she spoke here to Ben. And I want to show you a clip from that, and then we're going to talk more about this shutdown and how that Mike Johnson continues to go to bat for predators. Take a look at this.
Well, really, for me, it's just because people are so confused about what's going on. Not only as survivors are still confused, but like the transparency, like what is really going on. Everyone makes it about Trump and Epstein. Okay, maybe there's something there, and about Epstein, but it's about this whole ring of men. The only person in jail is Ghislaine, a woman. So where are all the other men that were benefiting and profiting from all of this? That's what makes me upset, because us survivors, we know that they were there. We saw them. We know that we're royalty, princes, very powerful people in academia and tech. And we saw them at parties. They knew what was going on. Why aren't they exposed? And people say, well, why are you speaking out now? Well, we're pissed off now because nothing has happened. And yeah, it's just a frustrating thing for me. So I'm at the point where it's like I'm at my wit's end standing on Capitol Hill. It was more just like, look, I'm not going to sit up here and just tell my sob story like everybody else is. We need to do something about it. You think you have the power? I mean, you don't think that we have the power too? You don't think that we understand what's going on here? So it was really just to say, you need to do something, because we also have the power to do something.
Again, I highly recommend that you go watch the entire video, because what was one of the most fascinating parts of the interview to me was the way that she describes how that everyone got sucked into this machine that Epstein had. And that's what it was. It was a well-oiled machine that he was running. This wasn't just a bunch of rich people partying on an island and having fun and random things were happening here and there. No, everything was very methodical and everything was planned out in advance. And Epstein was a master of going about preying upon young women and duping them into thinking that he cared about them. And I've heard so many stories from survivors, and it's pretty much always the same thing about how he would slowly lure them in, and then once he got them there, they couldn't leave. And they saw all these powerful people. Those ladies that were at the Capitol speaking out, they know who those people are. They've said, we know the names. We're going to compile our own list if they don't release the files. We're going to compile our own list of the people that are there. And folks, to me, this has nothing to do with Democrat versus Republican. It's got nothing to do with the left versus right. This is about the victims and what they went through. And I don't understand how that a party could scream about it for so long, like it was the issue. It was the hill they were willing to die on for so long. It's the one thing they talked about more than anything else. And they promised that their guy was going to be the guy to expose it all. And now he just says to them that they're playing into a Democratic hoax. I can't imagine what it would feel like to support a politician and go to the lengths that people were willing to go to for Donald Trump, only to be told, hey, you're believing a hoax and you're stupid for doing so. This was not a Democratic hoax. This was about the victims, and that's who we should be talking about. But the government remains shut down, and then when Mike Johnson is cornered on why won't you reopen the government and why won't you swear in Adelita Grijalva because she's going to be the 218th vote to release the files, you can see that he is completely rattled here and doesn't know what to say. And I would just love to be a fly on the wall when Mike Johnson looks in a mirror. But take a look at this.
When are you going to swear in Representative-elect Adelita Grijalva?
As soon as we get back to legislative session, when Chuck Schumer allows us to turn the lights back on.
Why haven't you done it already?
Because this is the way the institution works. I'm following the Pelosi precedent, by the way, when my dear friend from Louisiana, Julia Letlow, was elected to fill the seat of her deceased husband because of COVID. Nancy Pelosi took 25 days to swear her in. By the way,
are you saying? Let me stop you. Are you saying that Nancy Pelosi refused to swear her in earlier?
No, I'm saying that's my very point. Is this is the normal process? Because
my understanding is that was the date that actually the representative-elect Letlow at the time requested. She had obviously her.
Okay, here's some more examples. Okay.
No, but wait a minute. You mentioned the Pelosi precedent, but Pelosi didn't delay that.
Let me give you more of the Pelosi precedent. Okay.
And what about the Johnson precedent? Because you swore in 2 Republicans the day after their election.
I'm happy to answer. Pelosi precedent. Pat Ryan, Joe Simpolinski. They were elected during an August recess. So 21 days later, when the House returned to regular legislative session, they were administered the oath. That's what we're doing. We're not in session right now. Rep. Grijalva was elected after the House was out of session. As soon as we return to legislative session, as soon as the Democrats decide to turn the lights back on so we can all get back here, I will administer the oath on the first day.
You could swear her in tomorrow, right?
No, not tomorrow. No, we couldn't. We wouldn't. There was an exception for 2 Floridians earlier in this Congress, but the reason was they were duly elected, they had a date set, they flew in all their friends and family, and the House went out of session.
So if she flies in friends and family, then
we don't have a date set. She was elected after.
Okay. Let me ask you about the president.
You can tell that he is so rattled right there, and he's trying so desperately to make this go away and trying so desperately to spin it. But kudos to the host for actually calling him out on his Pelosi precedent comment and pointing out that person had asked to be sworn in on that day. And then you could hear him just completely stuttering and stammering all over himself. And one other thing that I would like to point out is how he says when Chuck Schumer allows us to put the lights back on, he keeps saying when they allow us to turn the lights back on. So to all the MAGA out there, he's saying that Chuck Schumer is more powerful than Donald Trump. That Donald Trump can bypass everyone else, but he can't get past Chuck Schumer. That's what he's essentially saying here. Trump can put the guard on the street. He can do anything he damn well wants to do. He can go out here and just hit boats in the Caribbean, do anything he wants to do, and get away with any of that. He can absolutely go out and do any of those things, but he can't get past old Chuck Schumer. You don't fuck with Chuck, buddy. He is the guy that Trump can't beat. That's what he's essentially saying. And I would just like to point that out to all the people who says how badass Trump is. At the moment, according to Mike Johnson, Trump can't get around Chuck Schumer. So I would like for MAGA to chew on that one as long as they want to. But folks, again, when it comes to the Epstein files, this is about the victims. And once we've lived through all of this and we've seen it all unfold, and going back to when Epstein died in 2019, I saw a lot of conspiracy theories popping up that maybe the Clintons had him knocked off. And at the time I was going, well, he died on Trump's watch. I mean, it's kind of interesting that that's the way that it happened. And then we see Trump get reelected and he promises to release the files, but he kind of hesitated on that when he wasn't sure about that one. And then he just comes out and calls it a Democratic hoax. And then for the first time ever, he sends one of his lawyers to cut a deal with a child sex trafficker, Ghislaine Maxwell, who, by the way, is the only one that ever went to jail for Epstein. None of the men have, just the woman did. And Trump, cuts a deal with her and puts her in a really cushy prison. And now she's sitting there just waiting on her pardon. And we saw him pardon George Santos and every other scumbag in the world. So I'm sure Ghislaine feels like that she's going to have it any day now. I saw where Patricia Krenwinkel from the Manson family came up for parole and Gavin Newsom denied it. Hey, she missed a golden opportunity right there. All she had to do was say the radical left lunatic Gavin Newsom stopped it because she expressed her love for Donald Trump, and Patricia Krenwinkel would have a position in Trump's cabinet because that is the type of leader that we have. And this government shutdown all falls back on him, and covering up the pedophiles all falls back on him. And until he proves us wrong, we're going to continue to call it as such. And I don't think that's being unfair. They ran on this. They promised this. This was their issue that they drove home. And then once they got in charge, after years of promising to expose the deep state, they became the deep state. And I'm always going to call them out on that one.